To our brothers and sisters in the American Southeast, dealing with the effects of Hurricanes Helene and Hurricane Milton, and to those in the Bighorn Mountains of Wyoming, we are here for you. We are praying for you. Help is on the way. We are also praying for our friends in Mexico who are dealing with the effects of Hurricane John in the Acapulco area. The Scene Projects are brought to you by these fine sponsors. List with Linda B. Cufflinks.com. J.H. and Sons Menswear. Kathmandu Campground and RV Park in Sturgis, South Dakota. The Den. Sioux Falls' newest live music venue at 909 Northwest Avenue in Sioux Falls. Sunny Radio and SiouxFallsPodcast.com. Welcome into a very exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Startz, and I'm coming to you live from the Saloon number 10 in historic Deadwood. I'm here with my brother, Ryan Little Eagle. How you doing, man?
Man, what's up, Bubba?
Man, it's beautiful to have you. We've been hanging out all week. It's been a big one. We've had Queen City Songwriter Invitational. We've had shows here at the Saloon number 10. Where do you want to start?
I don't know, man. It's been a long freaking week.
Well, why don't we catch up with you a little bit? Why don't we start with, the last few weeks? I know you've been on tour and doing things, so you're kind of wrapping up some East or some West Coast or some Western Mountain Town gigs. What's been going on? And then we'll go from there.
Well, just working on some new music, trying to get some new stuff going. At the same time, been playing a lot of shows in Montana, doing some in Wyoming, of course, kind of my little I-90 corridor. And I'm getting ready to strap up, get on the road again. Going to be going to Idaho, Montana, and, of course, going to be playing in Washington. It's going to be my first time really, like, Seattle, kind of right there on the West Coast, so first time getting out that way.
Epic, yeah. Well, and you just keep stretching farther and farther, right? That's kind of the nature of this business. You keep getting out. It's a big reason why I took Starts and Ends out to Wyoming and play in some of the towns and getting around some of the territory that you're riding around, right?
Pretty much.
You got to get out there, and nobody's more proof of that than you, Ryan. You're the busiest guy I know. I'm always trying to put you on to gigs and trying to catch up to you is what I'm trying to do, mostly. But
right.
So what brought us to Spearfish and what brought us together was the Queen City Songwriter Invitational.
Yeah.
Why don't you start with your first round? Where was your first round at on Friday? And
so my round was over at Killian's. We were there. What time was? I think it was like the 1 o'clock, 1:30 slot, 12:30.
Right, so you were one of the first rounds of the whole thing. Awesome.
Yeah, it was fun, man. It was cool to see a lot of familiar faces, and it's nice when you can stop and actually play your own music and tell your own stories. It was funny because Saturday I played with Jonesy, Lonesome Jones and stuff, and it's like we were giving each other back and forth. It's like, oh God, Ryan's gonna play. That means he's gonna talk forever. It's like.
But you're a storyteller, Ryan, and you do talk a little bit, but there's a lot of things that aren't in your songs that need to be said. And I talk a lot in between our songs, too. When I get down to the band stuff, it's very, one song after another and stuff. But there's things that need to be said in every show. And, it becomes a little rehearsed, maybe. And if your friends have seen your show, they know some of those, right? Well, I'm sure people are getting sick of me telling everybody to come up by the tip jar and grab a sticker too, but It's part of the business, man.
Well, for the most part, the stories constantly evolve. I don't really tell the same one twice anymore. I mean, it's, variations. The only story that I ever really tell the same, and it just depends on the night, little inflections. There's a song I wrote called If It Was Me. And the thing is, the way I wrote it is I used to work at this bar in Atlanta, and you can tell it's the best job any Native American could want because I was operating a mechanical bull at a cowboy theme bar right across the street from the Atlanta Braves.
There you go.
And, you used to get these yuppies coming in, these frat boys that be there, wearing their polos and their board shorts and got their Sperry's on and got their visors, and they come want to ride this bull, and, of course, they bring their girlfriends, forget who they were with, and I tell you, man, they start getting into it, and before you know it, he gets on that bull. She walks up to me, because I'm sitting up here operating it by an upper bar. She walks up to me, she throws like $10 down and says, toss his ass. So, yeah, and I'm telling you, man, I made
Why
so
am
much.
I not surprised as a married man?
Right? And I made good money doing that. So that's the story I tell constant that's like the same. But for the most part, it's always ever changing. And I guess I learned that, honestly, from watching Cody Canada from Cross Canadian Ragweed.
Okay.
My ex-girlfriend was obsessed with him, so we caught a show in Atlanta, and I got to know the merch guy. He's a good friend of mine, and I started talking with him. Before I was on the bus with Cody. We were smoking and drinking, and ever since then, every time I was in a town that Cody was in, I'd stop in and see my buddy, and I'd occasionally meet up with Cody. And then I caught some of his acoustic shows, and his acoustic shows, he's just basically sitting there like rambling on, long story, and then gets to the song. It's actually one of my favorite albums he has is Something Old, Something New, maybe a cover or two. And it's like a solo album he did, live recording, and the stories on it are awesome. Like the way he tells it, to me, it's better than the songs.
Well, and those are the stories that become the songs, right?
Pretty much.
You have to include them, and it's nice to have a setting where you can include that, and it's what it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
That's what these songwriter invitationals are supposed to be about, is getting to know the songwriters, getting to know the songs and
Exactly.
the stories, you know?
You know, that's the thing, like when I'm not dogging on Nashville at all, because I've got some friends who've had some number one hits. I know people who basically run some of the bigger songwriting companies there in Nashville. But it's like when you get into it, at the end of the day, nowadays it's basically river, truck, beer, hot girl, boom, song.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, there's no real feeling to it anymore. There's no real story. And it's like, you know, don't get me wrong, like George Strait's one of my favorite artists. And George Strait can tell the story of a song by singing it, but it's different when you've written a song and you have a reason for it. Like my favorite song, and it's cool, Gully, who's been playing with you, you know, I came into the 10, we were talking, and it's like, you know, we're going back and forth. He saw I was wearing a Jason Isbell shirt, and he's like, I used to write with Jason. And it's like the song, my favorite song Jason does is, of course, Cover Me Up, which is probably his number one hit, other than maybe We Are Vampires. That's another great hit. But when it comes to that song, I've heard the story Jason telling about with his ex-wife, it was a contest who could write the better song, him or his wife. And Goalie kind of backed up that story, which was badass. But to hear that and what went into the song, and then the other story I heard him tell before is like when he was going through rehab in Nashville, you know, it was his wife his ex-wife at the time that kind of was that saving grace that kind of got him through it. So it's like those things really add to the emotion of a song. Like Morgan Wallen does a great version, but at the same time, he sings the song, he doesn't sing the song. And I know some people are going to be like, what do you mean? When you hear Jason sing it, you hear that passion that he had when they first released Southeastern, when they released the record. You know, there's just a difference.
And it's nice because we don't necessarily live in a world where the people who are performing the song aren't the songwriter, right? We are singer-songwriters. We're performing our own music. Some of us are covering our friends' music. I appreciated you hearing you do Devin Sance today. I'm Not a Hero. That was awesome. I definitely got a recording of it, and I can't wait to share it with some of our friends. I would like to see more of us doing that, right? And covering our friends' songs, and it's okay to do that. And
yeah, you know, that's the crazy thing, because I've talked with people about that. When I released my first record, Native Americana, there's a song on there called Rough in Carolina. And my buddy Matt Polanski out in Houston, Texas, he wrote that song, and it was a banger when he wrote it. And then my buddy Zach Talbert was covering it, and like we would mess around with each other's songs and stuff. And so when I was recording the record, I wanted to add, I wasn't as confident in the songs that I'd written, which now that I've relayed those down. But I reached out to Matt. I'm like, hey Matt, I really love your song, bro. Can I do a recording? He allowed me to do it, and of course, my version's way different than his.
Right.
But it was still like an appreciation. And
isn't that kind of the fun part of it?
Oh, yeah.
A little bit different expression of it, right?
Yeah, but say that song I told you, If It Was Me, he ended up taking he ended up taking that one because we were doing a video series. He does like a Mixed Tunes Monday, and so he brings out like a different one, he'll cover and throw it on there. And he took one of my songs. He took If It Was Me, and he changed it up completely. And I'm like, man, I actually dig how you do that.
Sometimes they can do it better than you can do yourself, right?
Well, I don't know about that, but there's sometimes when you hear somebody else's ear to a song, it adds something that maybe you hadn't thought about. Like I was telling you earlier.
Exactly. And maybe not better. Maybe better is the wrong term, but different, and the different can make the song better.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, that's just like with Devin. The first time I started playing I'm Not a Hero, because it just used to be the running joke whenever we walk into the Phoenix. And when I cover, he's like, okay, this is weird. And I started switching up a few things. And at that last chorus, when you're repeating the I'm Not a Hero line, I went to an A minor and just like let that A minor like really stand out there before that final one. And I noticed like when he's playing now, he'll start doing that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's pretty badass.
It's that's what makes weekends like this one so special.
Oh, yeah.
When we're all able to get together and to get to enjoy each other. And maybe it's only a few songs. You know, the rounds in the way they're built, you maybe only get 4 or 5 songs at the most, right, in that hour. But I never really, I never really went in with a plan, right? I wasn't coming in with like, oh, I'm going to play this song, I'm going to play this song. It was just kind of going with the flow. And
Same.
And I got to do 2 rounds with Mike Endren, who I had never met before then. A fantastic songwriter that I get to know. And then I also get to play with, someone who I'm a big fan of that I'd never met before, Randy Berghart. So someone who I didn't know, who you become a fan of. Someone I am a fan of, but I've never met, that I get to meet. And then the last round I'm with Nevada Ellison, who's one of my best friends in the world, someone who I've seen perform countless times, right? And to sit here up there and to listen to him play a song for his mother that who passed away from cancer, and to just sit up there and to bawl and to feel every bit of that emotion, right? To feel every bit of it with him. And it was a blessing, an absolute blessing to share that moment with him and to not be ashamed of the tears one bit.
That was the same thing with Jonesy, man, with Lonesome Jones, is because we were in a round with Randy, and Jones got a great song that he wrote for his mom because when his mom passed, and I'm sitting there coming after that song, and that's the fun thing. Like when you're in these rounds, having a plan is a terrible idea. The crowd's always different, and you never know what the guy's gonna play next to you. It's like
the way I described it, Ryan, was that like if you come with a plan, you're doing it wrong.
Pretty much. Well, it's because like when Jones did that for me, I wasn't planning. I wrote a song called Texas. I wrote it for my grandpa, and I was not planning on playing that until Matthew's Opera House. And it's like Jones pulls out this song. I'm like, well, that kind of brings me back into this mind frame. So it's like, let me tell the story of this cowboy from Shamrock, Texas, that, the difference and impact he made in a life. And, I play that song, and I guess I had Jason crying a little bit. But, even when we were at Matthew's Opera House, Jason goes, I didn't want to tell you this, but I was hoping you'd play Texas.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. I'm telling you, you missed it, dude. I was on stage 3 times at the Opera House.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, unfortunately, my obligations up here at the Saloon 10 kept me from partaking in the big show part of the Queen City Songwriter Invitational. But since I wasn't there, why don't you tell me a little bit about just the whole thing? I know we had a bunch of songwriters coming in, and then you had a headliner, obviously, Jamie Lynn, a great friend of the show, and someone I've worked with for many, many years, headlining then, and then Jonathan Bird, correct, was on Saturday, right?
I didn't get to catch Jonathan because I was booked at the public house.
Right.
I basically I was there I did my song, and after doing my song, I basically grabbed my stuff and left and set up for the gig.
Peeling out, man.
But honestly, it was really cool how we all kind of got together first, just kind of hanging out in the green room waiting for the show to start. When the show started, then you don't realize how fast it is when everybody's singing one song. And was talking with Clayton Ryan, good friend of ours, and I'm asking, he's like, what song you gonna play, dude? He's like, hey bro, you got your flute? Let's do Evergreen. And so I was like, okay, I got my flute for that. And so I was talking with Devin, like, Devin, do you want me to grab my flute for when you do I'm Not a Hero? He's like, yeah. So
that's awesome. So you got up and played flute with both of them, huh?
Yeah. And
that's cool, dude.
And one of the best moments was with Devin, because Devin, we was sitting there, he's like, he got Chris Graves, Don't dead name him now. You got Chris Graves and Clayton. And
I can't pronounce his old name anyway, so Chris Graves was great for me.
it's Who's and Graves. No, just kidding. I forget who said that.
I'm glad we got that on tape, buddy. That's immortalized.
Yeah.
Oh, we love Chris. Chris
That
joined
was-
us last night for a whole set, man. He didn't
Yeah.
know that he was going to, but he sure did.
Yeah, that's Lonesome who came up with that one. But no, it's funny because talking with Devin was basically like, hey, I want to get my friends on stage with me. That's how I came into playing out here. That's how I want to show. And so, yeah, he had me out there. I played flute. He had he had Chris, he had Clayton. They were singing harmonies like choir style. It was a cool show. So much so that even Mr. Bird, pointed it out to Devin, said that was a smart thing to do.
I love doing these live podcasts, dude.
I know,
It's fun,
right?
right?
I know, right? Just get the weird looks. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, from what I was told about, like, Jonathan Bird, he was like real cool. People liked what he did. And
I can't say enough good things about how the whole weekend went for me. I mean, from my perspective, it couldn't have been any better. I appreciate the committee or whoever put me on the rounds they did. Yeah, they put me where they did. It was right where I needed to be.
Yeah.
I was a little skeptical, and I'll admit it, and I admitted it to them when I went to the Lookout Lounge, right? And it's this little place, and I walked in, and it's empty, and I'm just like, oh, well,
Dude.
it is what it is. I get to play some songs, right? But I swear that room filled up, and you were there.
I was going to say, the Lookout Lounge, the one thing I learned about it is don't follow Clayton for directions to get over there. We ended up by the Spearfish Creek wine bar and sitting up because he's like, oh, it's over here. And when we took off, because we left False Bottom, I can't remember. I think we left False Bottom or we left the brewery to go over. And it's like we were looking at each other and he's like, I think it's this way. So we took the right. And I'm going, wait a minute. I think it's by the highway. Whatever. And I followed him and we walked around the block a little bit. It's like, this doesn't seem right. Nope, we ain't going the right direction. Well, damn.
Yes,
So,
that's why we need handlers, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what a week, man!
Yeah.
What a week! And you talk about Devin bringing you guys up and having his friends around him, and it's so big to him, and that's why he's become such a big part of my life. I've really only met Devin from playing music together and doing shows, and I've never really got to hang out with him really away from that. I know a lot of you guys are very good friends, and I have hung out a lot, but I see who he is, right? I see the admiration and the respect that he has for all of his friends. And
he's one of the most genuine people by far. I can tell you, and I'm not calling out anybody. It's funny because, as you said, I travel, and, I travel obviously now far north as Seattle, Washington, as far south as Savannah, Georgia. And I've been part of many different music scenes, North Georgia, Texas. And when I think about it, I check in on those guys every now and then. But for the most part, out of sight, out of mind. You're not around. Nobody hits you up. Nobody checks on you. Nothing. You're basically gone. But when it comes to the scene out here, Devin's a fine. I will randomly be driving somewhere and get a phone call from Devin. Hey, man, just want to check on you, see how you're doing, see where you're at. And I have not seen that from any other music scene that I have personally been a part of.
Yeah. Well, I hope that I can text you or call you randomly someday and to be another one in that list. We've been very fortunate to get together quite a few times this summer. We keep running into each other, and that's what kind of happens when you're out on the road and you're traveling and playing these shows and just being in it, man, being in this wave and riding it. That's all we can do, and we're all kind of riding this big one together. I think a weekend like this where we all get together and you look at all the talent around you, I mean, just overcome with emotion and pride, and like all my friends are doing such big things. It's a motivation, it's a inspiration, right? It's all the things. Sure. And then very fortunate to have these Saloon 10 gigs where I can do exactly like Devin in a small, Devin's bringing you up for a song at the Matthews Opera House, Chris, we put on stage for a whole set, and I I know that some people have performed at the Saloon number 10, and maybe it's not, but man, I tell you what, on a Saturday night when this place is full of energy and there's nothing like it, there's no other gig like it in the world. I've played a lot of them, and I love it.
Well, unfortunately for me, I've not had the full band to do that, but even when I'm here on a Sunday, it's always been good. It's always been fun, you know.
Yeah.
We go from laid back storytelling to just kicking back. I've had people out dancing out there.
That's Chris Gully on the keys that you can hear in the background. We drug him back up from Denver again to come play with us.
Right. Yeah.
It's been a wild week, Ryan. I'm so glad we got to spend so much of it together, man.
You know,
where are you heading to next before we let you go?
So I'm going to be here in the hills one more week, and then from there, I'll be heading towards the Madison River Valley. I'll be playing a show in Three Forks, Montana. From there, I'll be going a little bit north of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and then I do 2 shows in Washington. And then I'll be at Yellowstone National Park for a week teaching native culture before doing another weekend run around the Madison River Valley in Montana, and then heading towards Indiana from there. Maybe stopping in over in Sioux Falls and doing a show with a good buddy of mine.
We're going to make that happen for sure, buddy. And when we do, I want to hear more about the Yellowstone thing and everything you're doing out there. That sounds amazing. So we'll be sure to post about that and the things that you're involved with. And I love that you're able to dig into your culture and use your knowledge of your culture, right? You know, your knowledge of the music of your culture, and to spread that knowledge is really awesome, man. I think that's really fantastic, Ryan.
You know, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of great teachers that have shown me, taught me. You know, a lot of times it's just, as my uncle always says, you know, 2 ears, 1 mouth, you know, listen, don't talk so much.
Right. Well, I'm a big talker, but I've enjoyed listening to you. I do enjoy listening to you. I've got to sit and listen to your music today and all weekend, and it's just been a great time. It's been great getting to know you better. I just keep seeing you on the road, man. I know we're going to keep doing this for a long time to come, so appreciate having you on the show, brother.
Thanks for having me, brother.